Scotland's freshwater lochs are an important part of our natural heritage. They provide natural habitat for plants and wildlife, drinking water and recreational benefits to people across the country. Lochs are an internationally famous feature of the Scottish landscape. Think of Loch Lomond and Loch Ness, amongst others. There has been scientific interest in Scottish lochs for hundreds of years, but understanding how they will respond to climate change has never been more important. Globally, temperatures have risen by almost 1.5 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times, rapidly altering our planet's ecosystems. Climate change is now an imminent threat to the quality of Scottish lochs. With air and water temperatures increasing and rainfall patterns changing, more storm events are flushing pollutants from land to water. Most Scottish lochs have warmed since 2015. As our climate changes, they are expected to experience even higher water temperatures or heat waves. Higher water temperatures could push lochs beyond their limits of resilience. These changes will reduce their habitat quality and recreational value, and endanger public health. Warmer waters and higher inputs of nutrients, especially phosphorus, increase the risk of algal blooms developing in our lochs. Algal blooms are rapid accumulations of algae and cyanobacteria in loch water that often float to the surface. Algal blooms can produce toxins that are harmful to people and wildlife. Like any other plant species, three main factors control the growth of algae: warm temperatures, strong sunlight, and a good supply of nutrients, especially phosphorus. Reducing any one of these factors will lower the risk of algal blooms. In the case of Scottish lochs, most of the phosphorus comes from agricultural fertilisers. Excess fertiliser travels from land to water under wet conditions. This is called runoff. Under climate change, the UK is expected to become warmer and wetter in winter and hotter and drier in summer. We will also experience more storm events. These changes will increase phosphorus runoff into our lochs and increase the risk of algal blooms. While we can't reduce water temperatures and levels of sunlight, we can change the amount of phosphorus entering our lochs, especially as runoff. The question is, how? We could install more buffer strips. These are areas of vegetation that separate agricultural fields from rivers and streams, intercepting runoff. But this would only reduce runoff by about 1%. We can also lower phosphorus runoff by reducing any excess fertiliser applications to agricultural land. If we cut greenhouse gas emissions and reduce fertiliser application, phosphorus losses from land to water would likely decrease by about 20% by 2080. There are other ways of reducing algal blooms in our lochs. For example, removing historic pollution from sediment in the loch bed, or adding chemicals to make the algal blooms sink. But these measures are very expensive and do not provide a long-term solution to the problem. What if we don't reduce nutrient inputs to lochs? If we fail to cut greenhouse gas emissions and we don't introduce more sustainable land management practices, phosphorus losses from land to water are projected to more than double by 2080. Many of our lochs would then fail to meet their good water quality targets. At the moment, algal blooms cost Scotland at least £16.5 million per year in terms of water treatment, impacts on house prices, reductions in visitor numbers, and loss of biodiversity. However, the real costs are probably much higher, as this figure excludes medical and veterinary costs for people and animals affected by the toxins that algal blooms produce. At Loch Leven alone, the estimated cost of algal blooms is about £2 million per year. While we can't stop climate change, we can act to protect our lochs from its effects in the future. We must work with farmers, landowners, environmental regulators and policymakers to co-develop sustainable, evidence-based solutions that will make our lochs more resilient to climate change. Combining low greenhouse gas emissions with sustainable lifestyle choices and reducing phosphorus runoff is the best way to prevent algal blooms. This will keep our lochs clean and healthy for future generations to enjoy. We understand the solutions. Now is the time to use them.